pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item is item 4, public appearances. Public's opportunity to speak about any subject is not a specific agenda item. What we have so far is all agenda items. I don't think you have anything else.
I don't have anything.
Okay. Item 5 is discuss and consider the minutes of the regular village board meeting of February 18th, 2019. Any comments, corrections, or additions?
Motion to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Motion and second to approve as presented. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Item number 6, presentations to the board. A presentation by Jacob Klein of JT Klein Company about economic development. Jacob?
Right, you're fine, or you want something wrong?
Either way.
You can sit at the table or the podium, whichever, as long as it's got a mic, you're good.
Okay, well, my name is Jacob Klein. I'm the president of JT Klein Company. We're a developer of housing here in Dane County. And I've got here with me tonight Danny and Fable. So we wanted to let you know that we appreciate being invited here to come speak with you, give you a little bit about the company and some of the projects we have completed here, and as well, really the driving force in what we see as the driving force in economic development here in Dane County for the years to come. So basically, I started JT Klein Company in 2015, and since then we're just finishing our 4th development right now. Before that, I worked for a company out of Minneapolis, and I was a principal there and worked out of Minneapolis for 10 years. We did most of our development in Wisconsin, doing senior housing, assisted living, memory care, and then also just general affordable apartments. I think probably from that company you might be familiar with the project that I built. It used to be Garden Circle Apartments in Monona, behind Ken's Meats there on Monona Drive. We purchased that from the city and redeveloped it with I think built out in both phases is about a 230 unit senior housing campus that had 88 units of independent senior affordable. Then in the first phase, and then I think it had 38 memory care, 37 assisted, and then we had a second phase with like 68 memory care. And so that, I know when we were doing the lease up on that, we had a lot of people from Cottage Grove actually that moved into that first phase there. So that's a little bit about the background. Now we've got some slides that I can show you. First thing here, is this one? Okay. First one here is the first project we completed is called Meadow Ridge Middleton. It's a 95 unit. 95 unit affordable workforce housing project. It was the old bowling alley behind Fitzgerald's in Middleton. And we developed that and completed it in April 2017. City of Middleton was very actively involved in and has been actively involved in redeveloping the Parmenter corridor, which was kind of a leftover piece of land when they moved Highway 12, which was Parmenter, to the west. And so it kind of created this strip of old industrial uses that we kind of were the first ones in with this project. Since then, we just last week completed an 83-unit senior project next door. Meritor is putting in an ambulatory, like a 250,000 square foot clinic 2 blocks away along the Beltline. I believe they're starting that this year or next year. And then now there's a 260-unit market rate apartment project that's going across the street. So, really, when you talk about economic development, I mean, this catalytic development in that location has really kind of kick-started, probably $100 million worth of projects on, a 15-acre area. So that project was absolutely, met with incredible demand. We leased all 95 units before we were even open. 100% full, basically 100% occupied after 30 days, 100% pre-leased. That project was financed with affordable housing tax credits from WIDA. City of Middleton put in $2.1 million of tax increment financing. And then we had about an $800-some thousand grant from the Federal Home Loan Bank of Chicago. So, these are complex. I don't know what level of detail to get into with kind of the affordable housing aspect, but it's a complex system that's very competitive across the state, and really helps kind of generate equity for these projects, especially in areas where you can't have support enough rent to support today's construction costs. I mean, I think that this is a problem we're seeing more and more every day, that it costs and is costing so much to build stuff that you're pricing out the whole middle section of the market, because when you're starting to consider an affordable house, $400,000 for a new house, it really limits who's able to purchase those. So the second project we did was real near to my real near to my heart, I guess. I spent 10 years acquiring single-family homes, the block immediately south of St. Mary's Hospital. And so 10 years, flash forward 10 years later, we broke ground on, it's called 820 Park. It's a 95-unit workforce housing development with 2,000 square feet of commercial space on the first floor on South Park Street, right next to St. Mary's. So, we've got doctors living there, nurses living there, teachers living there. We've got a corporate office on the first floor. And so that project was finished middle of last year. And I don't know if you guys have been up and down Park Street lately, but there's a lot going on South Park Street. And there has been for the past couple of years, especially from Regent kind of to what I'll call the split, where you got Fish Hatchery. And then, as I mentioned before, we just finished Oak Ridge, Middleton. Oak Ridge will be our senior housing brand moving forward. We've got currently an Oak Ridge project approved in Fitchburg. We've got another Oak Ridge project proposed in Madison. And so that's kind of a brand we're looking to expand on. That project is 83 units, is mixed income, so you've got market rate units, you've got units for people that make 60, 50, 30% of the area median income, so you really cast a wide net. And for seniors on a fixed income, this type of housing over the next 5 years, you're going to see a total crisis to build this, because with the silver tsunami coming, and people getting priced out of the rental market, and it just, I've been doing this for 15 years, and when we used to, 10 years ago, we would lease up a project and we'd have mainly 60% AMI units. Well, incomes have grown so fast in Dane County that the seniors are really getting left behind because their pensions and Medicare haven't kept up with the increased cost of housing. And so, whereas before we would have most of the seniors would qualify at 60% rents or 60% incomes or market rate, in this project, we could have leased 200 units at 50% because the incomes just aren't getting up to where the I guess, if you imagine like them with their pensions, projecting a inflation rate to get to what their housing should be, it's missing where it is, which is creating this gap where people aren't able to afford these apartments. Where this really plays into economic development, and what we've seen in Middleton is you do have a lot of people that are moving out of houses, right? So in a community like this, I think how it would apply to Cottage Grove is you have a lot of seniors that are living, in houses that once they leave, kind of re-gentrifies with younger families who are going to put in equity, fix up the houses, and really kind of spur some economic development that way. In the past, we've really concentrated on infill sites where we can create value from something that's underutilized and try and kind of have a sustainable sustainable development model. Old buildings that are just vacant or underutilized are a nuisance, and usually in pretty more high-profile locations. And so we've really targeted doing those types of projects because it's kind of like it just vacant buildings kind of spread bad things, and it just seemed to like breed more vacant buildings. And so if you can kind of breathe some life into an area, it seems to attract additional investment. So those are the 3 projects that are completed. We also have a 4th that is currently under construction in Middleton, which is across the street from the Stam House on Century Avenue. That one is a 46 unit, which is financed with TIF from the City of Middleton, tax-exempt bonds from WEDA, and our company's equity. And so that one, we have 10 units set aside, which is basically 20% of the units for people that make under, let's say, $35,000, and the rest are at market rate. It's a gorgeous location. It backs up to the Pheasant Branch Conservancy, so most of the units actually look out at the Conservancy, and so it's a real unique situation for being in a real urban location, but having that type of view and amenity next door. I think a lot of times, there's a stigma with these affordable housing projects that they're not as high quality. We've done granite in all of our buildings, plank floor, basically, condo level finishes. We'd invite, if you guys are interested, we're happy to come here tonight, but if you want to take a field trip and come out and see our Oak Ridge building that we just completed. I think everybody, last week we had a grand opening, the county executive was there, and everybody was kind of in awe over really how nice of a product we can build, because for a lot of these people, it's, they've lived in the community forever, they've got strong ties in the community, and they're looking for a forward place to live so that they don't have to move out of the community, move to Madison or whatever, where there's more options, and continue those lifelong bonds. And this is really the last place a lot of them are gonna be, and so this is some of the finishes. Is this one? Oh yeah. So here you can see we did like a white granite countertop, stainless appliances, framed mirrors, ceiling fans in the bedrooms and in the living rooms. And then I think, part of the whole affordable housing is when you look at the county, and there's a professor at DW, Kurt Paulson, who's actually on the Planning Commission in Middleton, who put together a study. I don't know if they gave you guys, if that's been presented here or not, but the amount of households in Dane County that are paying over their 30% of their income in rent is staggering. It's something like 11,000 or something like that. And so how that plays into economic development is if you have people that are spending more than 30% of their income on housing, rent, mortgage, whatever, say 50%, well, that's 20% more money that they could be saving, spending on, going out to dinner, basic life stuff where they're overburdened on the housing. So it kind of all rolls back to housing to create a solid base for growing your economic interests in your community. And I think as we move forward with this whole, I think it's hard to not look at what's going on with Amazon and how that's putting a crunch on businesses to say, well, what really is the future for retailing communities? I don't know, but I think if 5 years ago your plan was you wanted to have a significant retail presence in areas, I think that's something that's going to have to be looked at, because you're not seeing the retail growth that there was because of Amazon, I think, is a big part. And without really putting bodies, relatively dense population in areas, you can't support that type of growth. And that's just proving itself out. And 5 years ago, I wouldn't even have thought about, where are we going to put the packages for our building? It just you wouldn't think of it. And then we finished Park Street, and like 2 weeks, 2 weeks in, you walk in the hallway and there's 50 packages there a day. You have to build a package room now with, where they've got key access to get in the package room with a camera so that you can track all this stuff. And I just think it's changing this landscape of how we're purchasing goods and services. And so, if you really want to create these main streets where you've got businesses that are support, you really need the population behind that so that you can do that. What do we got, the next one? Oh yeah, so this really kind of gets into some of the details of Kurt's study and Professor Paulson. And Dane County's lucky. We've got a low unemployment rate, and we've got population growth, which, for the state, we're probably the leader in all that. I think, in fact, we are. But while we continue to produce more and more housing units, and the market's hot, it just drives up the construction cost, which then creates more of a need for these middle income type housing units. I don't think anybody doubts, that coupled with a low vacancy is part of the reason why we've seen such an explosion in multifamily. I don't know how the village here how much has been done, but when you go drive through most suburban areas in Dane County, there's been where the rents can support housing, there's been significant activity, and then that leads obviously to more things. I don't think we really need to get into some of the details of the affordable housing program as far as the specifics, but just kind of generally, these projects for seniors and for families are typically 60 to 80 units, and really help out with the schools and creating a tax base on oftentimes underutilized parcels. And I don't know, Danny, do you have anything else to?
No, it's just one of those things where, like, as the stats show, it's just you have such a hot population where, like Jake was saying, the stats are you're building a lot of apartments, but there's just not enough to support the demand, and you just can't build apartments to be affordable with construction costs. It just doesn't quite work like that. So programs, and that's kind of what we work with, these weeded tax credits, just to help kind of fill that gap that is definitely a need in our county.
Questions for Jacob?
have a question. I appreciate your time tonight and the information you provided. It's probably the second or third presentation we've had over the last couple, 4 or 5 months. Good discussion. Understanding you're a construction and development firm, have you looked at Cottage Grove to develop, and if so, where would be an ideal location?
I think, we've looked here in the past. I think an ideal location is, would be West Cottage Grove Road, really from there to around that grocery store right there. I think there's a Pick and Save right there. Piggly Wiggly.
Yeah.
Generally between there and what's the
CPS?
what's the golf course? The first golf course on the if you're going out Cottage Grove Road.
The farm bill.
Yeah. Somewhere in
Door Creek, probably.
There was like 2 golf courses. Whatever one is the first one on the left. So it seemed like the city had created a TIF there, which seemed like they would like to focus development in that corridor. And to me, it makes sense from a centralized area. And you already got the traffic, right? Because that's with a multifamily project, even though it's not, especially a senior project, it's not incremental, a huge amount of traffic. That's always a concern of neighbors and that's always a big argument we get, I would say, as to, or a consideration we have to make in where we locate these things.
Couple of questions. First, it's obvious, unfortunately, over years, there's this stigma of affordable housing. Automatically, people start thinking, Park Street, all that kind of stuff. What do you see when you're, any kind of pushback from other communities that you've been working on when you're showing this program to them? And then also, do you ever see once these buildings go up and you start getting, because obviously they're really super nice buildings, and you start getting them filled, do you ever see more economic growth right around those, like more stores popping up, more businesses?
Well, in Middleton, there's the apartment project going in across the street has got, don't quote me on it, but it's got, I want to say it's like 30 or 40,000 square feet of, like, yeah, it's they're putting it's the Middleton Market, so they're doing like a public market there on the first floor. I honestly didn't pay a ton of attention to all the details, but I want to say I know there's a public market and there's retail there. Park Street is just that's just such a changing spot right now. So adding 150 people on Park Street with 50,000 cars a day, I don't think you couldn't build enough stuff really there to make a huge. You'd have to have 1,000 units. You could build 1,000 units on Park Street and you generate a ton of stuff. Most of the times when we build stuff, it's been in a spot that is like already pretty, well supported with that type of stuff. So Middleton would be a good example of that. But I'm thinking, most of the other times we've been kind of right in the middle of stuff.
Any other questions?
Do you manage the developments then after they're built?
No, we have a, so Oak Brook Corporation is based out of Madison. I think they probably manage 6,500 to 7,000 units or something like that. Danny used to work for them.
Yep.
And so they manage our buildings. And we have a third-party general contractor. We've used McGann Construction out of Madison here for the projects. And so, we're with these buildings, the nice thing is, from, I would think, your perspective, we have to own these things. I have to own this thing for 15 years, and I've got a personal guarantee on the credits. So, I'm heavily invested in making sure that the properties run well. It's got oversight from WIDA, investor, that purchases the tax credits. The lenders are always doing inspections. And so, we're committed for, I'm, not exactly super old, and so I'm planning on owning these things for a long, long time. And, I grew up in Madison, I grew up on the west side, and so my wife's from Madison. We got a pretty strong commitment to the area. So, anytime anything comes up, it's easy to reach out to us.
Lastly, how do you know when to go into a community? Like, what's your determining factor where you build?
Lately, it's been like time. Like, how much time do we have? Because we've just been so busy. I think with the county making its commitment that it has in Dane County here, and now just upping its commitment, I think if I were a municipality, I'd be beating my fist at the table, trying like bring in projects now where you can get the county to help support them versus, because the need is there for it, right? I mean, you have a huge band of especially seniors that are getting to the point that this is a transition they need to or want to make, and either you use the resources that are there now, or 5 years from now, you're having to foot the bill probably yourself, right? Would be, that I guess that's how I would look at it. Might as well, if the money's there, and you got a need to build it now, because who knows what happens tomorrow,
Any other questions? Matt?
Is the land that you develop on initially land that you previously acquired, or is it municipal land?
I've done both. In Monona, the city bought that and sold it to us for $1. I've had other we typically have seen, like, we've competed and won RFPs before where the city owns the land, and however that process goes. But typically we'll put a piece of land under a contract, present it to staff, and try and get feedback there and come up with what we believe is a reasonable site plan, and then take it through the entitlement process.
Thanks.
Anything else?
One question if I can. The examples you've given appear to be Middleton, example, close to bus lines, public transportation. Is that something that is desirable to you as a developer to make sure that folks that move into those have the ability to get to work and that kind of thing?
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, I mean, having access to public transportation is always a plus. With our senior developments, we usually buy a bus, like a 12-person passenger van, so that we can take them places in the city, because for them it's less about needing a bus to get to work as it is getting a bus to, say, like outings or grocery store or kind of activity type stuff. So yeah, it's nice to have a bus stop, but if you start getting in less urban areas and more suburban areas like this, it's probably not as important, because most of the people that are going to live there live here anyway already right now, and it's just going to be, most of them have a car already.
Anything else? Thank you.
I was just thinking with that question with Troy, that a good spot for you guys in Cottage Grove would be out where we're putting in all this industrial stuff, where we got jobs going in, because it's mainly workforce housing, right? So walkability to work and riding bikes and stuff.
Is that on the other side of?
Other side of N, or just on this side.
Like where Summit is?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Anything else? Thank you, Jacob.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Unfinished business number 7, discussion with TDS regarding their fiber optic build-out in the village. JJ, we have someone here from TDS?
Yes.
Good evening. My name is Josh Worrell. I'm Manager of Business Development at TDS Telecom. We're very excited to be here in Cottage Grove and all of our expansion projects all over Dane County. They've been very successful. They've been successful for two reasons. One, our TDS team members work tirelessly around the clock to develop and implement the service in the communities. And two, our relationships and partnerships with local communities. When TDS enters a community, these are long-term investments. To give you some perspective, in 2019, TDS is committed to lay thousands of miles of fiber to reach over 80,000 homes, with construction costs totaling up to about $120 million. And yet we're here tonight to discuss a handful of pet issues within the village of Cottage Grove. I don't tell you this to wow you on the size of our fiber program. I tell you this because we care. We're here because we care about our investment in local communities, and I think that's the type of telecom company the board and your constituents should want to do business with. In your community, when we look at these business cases and we invest in them, none of the return on investments are inside of 10 years. The value of fiber is only growing year after year after year. It's the fastest, most reliable, most secure internet infrastructure available today. It increases home value about 3.1% or $6,000. So it's like adding a half bath to your home without any construction. So in your community today, there's a few neighborhoods in question in which we've had to place front lot or we're going to place front lot PEDs. This is due to two reasons. One, either the back lot easement was not made available to us, or two, it was not economically feasible to use the back lot due to design constraints. We're hoping tonight we'll be able to work through some of these issues and discuss them with you. And you'll be able to see the long-term value of fiber. However, if the board and the community's decision is that aesthetics is the value and that's where we're going to go, TDS has committed that we will take or not place infrastructure on the streets in question. This will mean that the service will not be available to any of the homes on those streets, but you won't have the front lot PED issues. We'll answer any questions that you guys have at this time.
We do have several people that have registered to speak. I'll just go in the order that we've got them here. Tina McFadden and Rick Smith.
Yep, right here.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I think there's attitudes.
Rick? Rick, if you could come up here by the table so you're on the mic. And then,
Yeah, you can come on.
yeah. As long as one of you comes up, just identify yourself and we can keep comments to about 3 minutes, that would be great.
Sure. All right. My name's Tina McFadden. I live at 100 Heather Drive, and this is my husband, Rick Smith. My issue is the placement of the utility box is in the front yard on the corner, and we want that moved to the back. There is an easement in the back, and that I feel that all the utilities should be grouped together. It looks bad, and I mean, who wants to see a box every other house down the street? It doesn't look nice at all in the neighborhood, and we keep our place meticulous, and I feel that it's a tripping hazard for children that are just walking down the street. There's a lot of people that walk their dogs. It's just another thing for a leash to get caught around. It's just in a very awkward spot, and another thing, we had no notification of TDS coming in. They just came in and started drilling in the yard, didn't come to the door to discuss with us, the homeowners. I've lived there, I'm the original homeowner, I built that house, and nobody asked me about where placement should be or anything like that. They could have came to the door, knocked on the door, told me what was going on for one thing, and then you just find out after the fact that they leave this box here with a big pile of dirt, and are they going to come back and clean that up? Is it going to be sodded? So that is my complaint. And on our neighborhood internet thing, I read lots and lots of complaints of wires being cut by they cut charter wires or spectrum wires, and people have had a lot of issues with that. But the main issue in our neighborhood, I think, is the placement and the installation and just the the sloppy job that they have done. So, thank you.
I agree with my wife.
Clay Zank, I think I've got that right, 401 Harriella Trail.
Yes, thanks for listening to me. Clay Zank, 401 Tiarella Cottage Grove. Been in the Grove here for 19 years. Similar issues. So my property is bounded on 3 sides by road, Taylor, Yar Hill, Tiarella. So there's I've got easements on all 3 sides. Utilities are in the back, so it would have been nice to put them where my electric and my charter peds are. That would have been awesome. If you didn't have access, I understand that, but then you also went down the side of my property and in the front of my property. Now, if the ped would have been put next to the telephone pole, that would have been cool too, right? Where it ended up was right front on the corner of my lot, right in front of the flower bed. So now I've got this large ped with a big orange sticker on it with a nice flower bed behind it. And I want to put this politely, I don't care that my property value is going up because of fiber. I care about aesthetics and curb appeal. And in my opinion, this is killing the curb appeal of my properties and that flower bed that's there. Also, no notice, no flyers, no nothing, just showed up one day, flags all over. A couple days later, drilling at 7 a.m., shaking the house. That was disturbing. So, thank you.
Robert Kubertans, 409 Terry Road.
Here.
Okay.
But I can't get over there.
All right.
As damn mad as I am, you'll hear me from here.
Okay.
First of all, I'm not threatening you. I'm warning you. First, a little bit of police chief. Because I'm going to take the cocky hands out of you pretty damn quick. Why can't you people come on our property and just come in and dig? Don't ask, don't do that, just dig. I'm going to tell you, there's 1 foot on the line, and as soon as it warms up in the sun, it's coming out. I'll get out of there. I got chains, I put a chain on, I can stay in my driveway, put a chain on, and I'll pull that thing out of there. And I'll be on my property. Where I belong. Where you don't belong. But I'll get out of there. I don't, if the chief wants to come and watch me, he can. You can bring the Dane County Sheriff, I don't care. I'm on my property. I've got a deed to the property, I've got receipts, the taxes are paid, it's my property. I can do whatever I want. If you put something on my property and I want it there, it's coming out. Oh, then not only that. Then I'm from my living room window, I look out the window and see on the inside, 4 holes they dug. For what? I have no idea. Then they came one day and filled up with gravel, or that much higher. What time am I going to do that? Move on top of the gravel? No. That's coming out too.
Why did they do that? Why did they refill those holes up?
So, just to address the gentleman's issue, if we are only digging and laying infrastructure where the village has permitted and authorized us to be. So even though that is your property, sir, it is a utility easement and the village permitted us and authorized us to be there. So we weren't trespassing in any way.
Like the trees they planted along the sidewalk, we never asked for. And the roots that high above the ground, picked up the sidewalk. We had to pay for that because somebody in the village decided we needed trees. They weren't planted right.
Why did they drill 1 hole,
and fill up the gravel?
So I don't know specifically what's happening at your location, but we have to physically locate the utilities as we cross underneath them.
I wish you could find this. What did you say? You didn't know what was going on in my location? And I hope you find out.
That gravel.
Because it's not good.
I know exactly where
It's not good. I mean, there's 1 hole here, there's 1 hole there, there's 1 post up front, there's 1 13 feet from the curb, there's 1 10 feet from the curb, nothing's uniform. It should all be in the back where an easement was.
I wanted a gravel pit out in front of my house, and build a house with a gravel pit.
We have a few other people registered to speak as well. Abby McDowell,
Wait a minute, I'm doing it, really.
We have 3 minutes, sir. 3 minutes.
I never got a damn answer.
Well, we're gonna try to get to that, but we have to let these people speak first.
I ain't done yet.
Hi, everybody. I'm Abby McDowell. I live at 208 Heather Drive. I understand fiber is needed. Everybody uses fiber. And I have teenage kids, as I'm sure most of you do. I don't understand how it's going to increase my property value when we've already had fiber in our neighborhood for years with Spectrum. Not a big Spectrum fan either. I'm glad we're having other options. However, it is what it is. My problem with this is that we received absolutely no notification from TDS or its contractors that they were going to be digging up our yard. I didn't have any idea that TDS was even coming to our neighborhood. And my understanding is that there is supposed to be some kind of 30-day, 60-day, 90 rule for any kind of drop bury done on any property in any easements. The fact that we didn't receive any kind of notification from TDS, its contractors, or even the village to let us know that this was going to be happening in our area, I find unacceptable. The second problem that I have with this is that, like most of the other residents here, we have pedestals in our backyard already. This pedestal that TDS has added to our home is on the opposite side of the house and the opposite easement. And I understand that that one pedestal is helping out the 4 houses that it's going to be. But if they did that because of design constraints and dollar amounts, I think that you would probably be beneficial to have the people, the residents who have been here for a very long time, I lived in my home for 10 years now, be happy with the fact that TDS is coming. They put in a new pedestal, fiber's here, and it looks great because it's next to the other pedestals and it's not an eyesore. I won't use TDS, and I will tell my neighbors and most everybody else not to use TDS as well.
You're here.
The other thing that is that we did call J.J. Larson at the Public Works to try to figure out what was going on, because again, we didn't have any notice. We were told we needed to call the contractor. Contractor said, well, the village approved it, you need to call Public Works at the village. Circles, round and round and round. Still, no answers. So not only do I have an issue with TDS and its contractors, which I understand they're just contractors, they're just paid to do what they're told, but I also have issues with the village not notifying any of its residents that this was happening. That's all I have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say, you did an excellent job at, for the village notifying us too. All of her points are valid, and I think they're very.
I moved here in 1994. The waterway between me and Clay. I've mowed that since 94. Because the village mowed it one time after rain, it left rust like that. I wanted to put it up, so I mowed it. I kept it good. The sidewalk between Clay and me is 100 feet. The village has never shoveled it. I used to shovel it. Now I can't get around, I can't shovel it. I hired a neighbor, clean my driveway and that sidewalk. I paid for that. I never charged the village a dime to mow the grass. Never charged my dime to mow that damn snow. And yet now they come on my property. The village owns my property. They can have these guys come in and dig it all up. I told you a minute ago, and I mean it. I don't care who it is. That box, as soon as the sun it's coming out, I will pull it right up. My pickup, and I got chains to reach it from my driveway.
We got a couple
Pull
other.
it out. It'll be out of there. And the gravel, I got that figured out. That 3 tile under the road, that waterway. I have bitched every year. It's washing up all the time. I told the village about it. They come with a pickup truck with a yellow light and guy with a white hard hat. I got a pickup, but no yellow light, no hard hat. But I can see what the problem is. But I don't know anything. I only lived on a farm all my life. I farmed. I know how to stop water. I know how to block it up. But I don't know anything. I don't have a college degree. So I'm going to take that gravel out of them holes. Put it on front of that tile, I don't care where it goes.
Right.
Then I come back.
Sir, we got a couple other people that have to speak to. Okay?
I'm gonna bring dirt from there up, I'm
Right.
filling holes up.
Scott
Break it,
Sherman?
move the tile.
You probably know I'm on the Public Works Commission. Okay. So when this happened, okay, and I heard it coming, I went down the street and I talked to one of your guys that's a manager. He showed me the plans for where the fiber optic was supposed to go. On the Heather side, east, it would come all the way down behind all the homes. Cross under the path, come up, and it was going to cross because I asked him about my home. And it was going to cross me, I have a neighbor, his name is Kevin, and I'm sorry, I can't remember the next people's name, between their house and over to the back pedestal in my yard, okay? Fine. That has not happened, okay? What I want to ask you is who had the authorization to make the change? And who was it that authorized it? I saw the plans. They're not following it.
I'm assuming that was a subcontractor? Did the
I'm not
actual?
sure of the specific location.
Yeah, but it's on the backside.
Heather and Hawthorne, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I live right on North Hawthorne.
Right.
And then the people in Duntarget, I didn't look at theirs, but I'll bet you if you can get the plan, it was down the backside of those
Yeah.
guys too.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I want to know who authorized it.
I'm just
How
taking
that go,
notes
because
on
otherwise, all right.
it. Okay.
Things that I saw.
Scott,
Can I just ask you a question? Do you remember when that was approximately?
Yeah. Probably about 2 to 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And Scott, they've already come into your property, they've already done they've already done yours?
No, they're sitting out in front right now. They're gonna cross over from the other side of Heather and under mine, and they were gonna stick it to front. Although they went in and remarked it, and I don't know if they're gonna go all the way back to my pedestal or not. Okay. Yes.
Matt Dunning?
Hi, my name is Matt Dunning, 303 Forreston Drive. Thanks for coming. First, I'd like to start, to try to devalue what we have an issue with and call it pet issues is extremely poor taste. We're your customer, you're trying to get our business, and that's how you present yourself to us. Oh, well, these people, and we're just not going to do it. We were all jazzed. I understand you may have to go to the front of my property. I guess one of my questions is, why can't it be a vault then? I was willing to be amicable about this. I was totally fine with it. I live on a corner lot, and I've gotten hit on 3 sides because of this. I get it. It costs money, but you know, you made the comment, I can expect a 3.1% increase in my home value. Well, by running the fiber and running all the data you're going to run through, which I'm sure isn't just to service us, it's probably to service other third-party commercial people. What's your percentage increase in sales revenue you're going to see from running the fiber through my property? I bet you it's way more than 3.1%. I've already spoken with assessor about this issue. He told me I can expect 5 to 10% loss if you have to go find the exact same layout and setup and compare it to mine. That alone, I'm going to have a problem if I got to go sell it, because if you can find somebody that's got pretty much all things considered the same, why would they want the huge eyesore? I have spent thousands of dollars on landscaping. When we moved into that house 7 years ago, it was all overgrown. You guys came in, you say you got your 6-foot easement. I know I could take a tape out there. You damaged rock formations in my property that are beyond the 6-foot mark, so you trespass and damage my property. And I'm supposed to just sit by and say, oh, but I got fiber, great. Again, as it was stated, I got a huge sales onslaught. Sign up now. I couldn't even get the price, still can't. What's it gonna cost? You know, you guys say you're faster than Charter, but I'll tell you what, you may be to the post. But the limiting factor is the minute you come into my house, you're just as fast as Charter. Because I don't have a gigabit switch running in my house. I don't have a fiber backbone running through my house. I'm going to have the same Wi-Fi speed that I've got now with Charter. And you know what? Charter works pretty good. And I don't get the runaround from Charter. I ask for help. They send somebody out, usually within 24 hours. So, you know, like I said, I can be amicable, but yes, I don't understand why It had to go in our front yards, you know, and it's one side of the street. And then it goes back. And you're saying it's to save you guys a buck. Like you said, it's a long-term investment. You're going to keep making money on this. If you didn't tick me off and make it now where I don't know that I'd ever go to you, even if Charter said I could have internet every other day, why would I give you money? You know, and then you come in here with that attitude. How, you know, why would I give you money? You know, you guys, you got to do something to fix this. People are willing to be amicable, but again, the runaround we've been getting. You know, oh, it's not the village, it's TDS. Oh, it's not TDS, it's the contractor. Oh, we talked to these guys. Where did the approvals come from? You yourself, sir, just said it. You sought approval from the village. You got the permission to do it. Where was that permission given? I have been through every single one of the records, starting in May, to the point where I saw the permit signed by JJ in November of last year. Not one place do I see that there was some sort of public meeting, a public notification, a vote by the board to say, let's do this. So where was it? Where was the meeting that was held over at the Senior Living Center to get all the people to sign up for everybody else? So that we could understand what was coming and we could ask these questions. How am I supposed to sign up for a pre-sale when I can't make an informed decision because I don't know what I'm signing up for? Every person I've talked to that did do the pre-sign up, that had this happen to him, said, if I'd have known this, I wouldn't have signed up. I didn't know this is what it meant because everybody had the PEDs in their backyards. And yes, when you come into a community like this, curb appeal matters. You go down the street and you see every single house, pristine green grass. They pay for lawn service. They pay for mowing services. You see people with well-landscaped beds, well-kept gardens. Yeah, it matters when you go and you stick a big green post with a big orange sticker every other house. So you're not even servicing 4 houses, you're servicing 2 houses.
We got to limit it to 3 minutes.
Okay, yep, so I've said my piece. You guys need to make this right.
Definitely.
Yeah,
He also said if we don't want it, you can yank it out of there, so, yeah, so if we don't want it, get it out.
Scott, Canada? Scott, did you want to speak or did you want to just? Yeah. You didn't say whether you wanted to speak, you just.
Oh, sorry.
But, okay.
Jack, maybe before he starts, I printed off the minutes from the May 7th board meeting from last year. At that meeting, Drew Peterson from TDS came to do a presentation on this to the board. And someone from the board asked him, you know, what type of construction do you do? How disruptive is the work? And he responded saying, we simply bring the fiber from a neighboring community. It's connected to the green box in the backyard and it comes into the home. That's all he told us.
Okay.
And then JJ and I had met with TDS and they alluded to us that it's actually TDS's preference that it's in the backyard. So that's what we've been told.
That's a good observation.
Yeah, that's great, otherwise those are just all lies.
I'm just trying
Yeah,
to.
you're right, exactly, that's proof right there.
I said before, I'm gonna.
Yes, let Scott talk now for 3 minutes, please. Go ahead, sorry.
All right. Yeah, I guess on the install, you know, when we're done here, I'd like you to comment on how your website shows that as the construction. Shows they come in with a special vacuum truck, makes a little hole that's no bigger than the base of a traffic cone. Yet, I've got this in my yard. I got like a 4 by 15 foot spot that's tore up. And you can look at this, that's the quality of the work they did. The damn post is leaning at an angle. So it sounds like you're coming in here, you tell everybody what they want to hear, and then the reality hits, and people are pissed off. You've got numbers on how much property values go up because of fiber. How much do they go down by having those beautiful green posts in your front yard? Those things should be underground if they have to be in the front yard. They should be the underground flush with the grass so they're not ice. I think people would probably be okay with that, knowing they're gonna have to fix all this crap themselves in their yards, put their own sod and stuff down, because I'm sure they'll just leave it the way it is, throw a handful of seed in and say, good enough. It'll be our responsibility to water it kill the weeds that pop up when the seed comes up, and it's all our work and time that's going to have to go into that. And again, just like everybody else, we've received no notification on this. You know, they've come in, they've done this, you know, put this eyesore in my yard, and I've got the utility post right in the back corner of my yard. I don't understand why this isn't going back there. And, you know, the way this has gone, there's no way in heck I would ever sign up for TDS service. And especially with the comment you made about it being a pet project. These are our investments. We got a lot of money tied up in these houses. So you do something, put an ugly eyesore in the front yard that devalues our property, you can expect people to be pissed off at you. That's all I've got to say. So I think if you can go and put in the underground boxes, you could probably, you know, alleviate a lot of everybody's fears or concerns about the aesthetics of it. It's still not great, but you'll still get your service in. You'll make your money on the services you sell, and you probably have a chance of actually selling some of the people this instead of everyone that looks out every time you pull into your house or drive through Cottage Grove and see all these ugly posts leaning at angles up and down every street, reminding them, hey, that beautification is by TDS.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Suzanne Werber?
Hello, Suzanne Warburg, 229 Forreston. I have a hard time believing that they sent you out here tonight without probably giving you a recap of what happened last meeting. So if not, you know, probably should have come in with that information. But assuming that you were, right, I guess my question is why, you know, to the board and to us, were not the questions probably you were briefed on addressed? Number one, what notice was given or why was notice not given to the homeowners, number one. Certainly from what we heard over here from Matt in the village as well, in terms of the details of how this was going to be handled. You know, to come in to address in a public forum a concern, you know, I would hope, what are the options? Would have been information that you brought in, specifically for Forreston, for Arbory Court, for the streets in question here, you know, to tell us what were the options, what are the options, at least at this point. Can we make changes other than just saying, hey, either you have it or you don't, we can tear it out? What are the options that exist at this point to either make it right, to change it, to look at other options? And then what's the plan for the rest of our community, right? Is the answer just, hey, you can have it the way we want it or not? Or have we looked at and can we, you know, present a plan to the homeowners and to the board that says, here's what this looks like moving forward so we can, you know, one, make it right, and two, do it better. That's the kind of information coming here tonight I would have expected to hear from TDS, with the briefing coming in as what happened last time. Thank you.
Bingo. Cynthia Kelton-Nelson?
Hi, I'm Cindy Kell-Nelson. I'm at 233 Forreston Drive, actually right next to Suzanne, and I'm not that far away from Matt. And so I think that everyone has, first of all, thank you for coming. And I think that everyone has done a good job explaining why we're upset, and I hope you understand why we're upset. Specifically, in my case, I received no notification. The notification I received was my security system going off that there was a bulldozer in my front yard making holes. I do have a box located in my front yard. I do also have easements on the north side of my property. I have village property in the back that my property butts up to. So you could have used that easement to go into the back and then actually service the rest of Forreston Drive on my side. I understand that you took cost-cutting measures for the bottom line, and I personally am very disappointed in it. I'm also disappointed in the approval process and the notification process. I guess going forward, I'd like to know what the options are. Can we bury these posts? I know that aesthetics, well, you might see them to think that they might be petty. I think our community cares a lot about how our street looks, our community looks. Obviously, otherwise we wouldn't be here taking time out of our night. So I guess I'd like to know what the options are for moving the box, burying the box. How can we move forward? How can the rest of the community move forward? I also want to say that I was very pro TDS. I paid my $25 because I really wanted TDS to come. I wanted that service. I will no longer be activating that service. I am perfectly fine with charter and the way things are going right now, especially because another concern that I have is that with the box in the front yard, in order for you to bring it into my house, I believe you're going to have to now lie fiber line or whatever you're going to lie and through the side of my house into the back, which I can only imagine is going to cause more damage. So I will not be using your service at all. Thank you.
We have two additional, Jeff Hansen. Jeff.
So everybody's probably getting sick of seeing me, but Jeff Hansen, Arbery Court, and Matt, I appreciate you raising the issue about approvals and such, and I'm hoping that the village board stands here tonight and listens maybe to the last 3 weeks that I've been here, and that we shut the project down until we go through what I consider a developer's type agreement. I'm passionate about Arbery Court. It was a parade site, and I honestly take offense when somebody says that it's a pet project. A parade site that was landmark in Dane County. And I think we did it pretty right, or Tom Beacon and some prairie developer did a great job. We had all of our pub, peds, utilities to the rear of the home. It was what I thought aesthetically pleasing. And in such, the village, I think, the growth that you're seeing north, south, east, and west was in light of that development. And I hope that we can go back to a scenario, and in your defense, I talked to my tech and I said, you guys, if you come in with something flush, every one of these people out here would have said, we're fine with it. But I think you got the hair up on the back of a lot of people's necks here. And it's frustrating because we had something going really nice. And I hope that that point of return hasn't happened. And there's a lot of people I see that are technology savvy. They would love to have the option, but to have it just thrown in our face. And I hope that you retract that pet project, because that's not what Cottage Grove is. We're a growing community. That community is made up of seniors, new and young families. And at this point, to have something thrown in our front yard that looks pretty ugly, I thought that was a disgrace. Thank you.
Larry Dunlop? That's the last one we have here.
My name is Larry Gunlaw, and I was here the last time. I also sent a few of the board members a request to have this topic on the agenda this time, and then I put together a list of 7 items that some of you have, and specifically would like to have answers. And it's my understanding that you gentlemen were to come here and be able to actually give us answers. The first one is in reference to the minutes of that you mentioned, Matt, that I had this on the list, that in that particular meeting that we would bring the fiber from a neighboring community, then it would be connected to the green box in the backyard. That's exactly how your minutes read. So my question is, you as a board, will you enforce that? And you as representatives of TDS, will you enforce that? So we think we should have the answer to that now. Then there are a few other things that doing the work in the wintertime seems to be really nasty, that there are requirements that the city had has to rework that site within a certain number of days, which is not done. Obviously, it can't be done in the wintertime. And you can't fix it. One of the things that it says in the permit, presumably the permit that was given, all disturbed areas will be returned to their present condition, subject to the satisfaction of the Village of Cottage Grove within 20 days. Well, that isn't going to happen. The other thing that is that initial cleanup shall be complete within 1 day of construction, and all cleanup efforts are expected to meet the reasonable expectation of each resident within the build area. Obviously, that isn't being done so far, and I would guess if you continue the way that you're doing throughout the city, or the village, that there will be a lot of other people that will be rather unhappy. And you as a business, certainly, I don't think you really want that. You want additional customers, and customer satisfaction should be primary on your list. So if anybody would like to have a copy of this, I would certainly be glad to give it to you.
I have it electronically, thank you.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
All right. Gentlemen, obviously you've heard a number of issues here. One's a notice, and then either putting it in back or a flush pedestal in front, and fixing the work in the spring because it can't be done now, and they're pulling it out. I mean, is that the type of issues you can address tonight?
Well, I'm going to let Kevin address those issues, but first
Sure.
I also ask one other question I forgot on my list.
Okay.
During this whole process, I kept being told, being looked into. How can something be looked into when it's still continuing? Like you said that, and they kind of left Forreston alone, but last week I came home from work, you guys ran the fiber. So I have a hard time believing that you have any intention whatsoever of trying to remediate this if you just cut fiber cable, which I know isn't cheap. So somebody's BSing somebody here, and it really feels like it's the residents that wants to get BS. So I just like that address. If this is being looked into, how is it being looked into if the work continues to go? Because, like I said, everything's been run, and now I've got fiber. I lived at the box up. I saw it.
We do have a couple of members, I think, that have some questions.
So, real quick before we address any questions, and we're going to go through these one time. You guys threw a lot at us, so we need to go back through to get you. I want to first address the board and everybody here. Obviously, I offended a lot of people here tonight, so I want to apologize to you. I want to apologize to you and everybody here. The way that I portrayed my message did not come off the way I wanted it to, so I apologize. Kevin's going to address some of these issues here. I'm going to come around and get your names and addresses so that we can look into these individuals. You threw a lot out of us. Each one is its own kind of project, so he's going to be addressing more kind of broad answers. I'm going to come around and get your addresses so we can address those more individually. I can't promise you that we're going to have a resolution tonight, but we're going to work that way. But before we continue, I just wanted to apologize if I was offensive to anyone here. I understand these are your homes. I understand this is where you live. So my apologies to you if I came off that way, sir.
All right. Okay, questions from the board?
So, can they answer some of the questions that the residents have brought up about?
Yeah, go ahead. If you want to go first, then we'll just, any questions from the board?
Sure. Do you guys want to do your questions and then I can do them all, or you want to?
I just wanted to make a few comments, and I think you guys are getting to understanding now. I mean, this is not a great way to introduce yourself to our community. These guys are taxpayers. They live here. This is their homes are their largest investments they've ever made in their life, just like myself. And I'm glad that you're here tonight. Thank you for doing that. But I want you to take things really, really serious when we're doing this, and I'm happy to hear. I was pretty taken back by his comments, the pet project. I was taken back by a lot of things. The attitude of, well, this is the only way you fix it. If you don't like it, we're going to rip it out of here. So can we get a promise from you that that's going to change?
Yes.
Okay.
I guess I'm trying to wrap my arms around, you've got utility boxes in every yard or in between yards. Why are you not putting them right next to the other utility boxes? and it's just logic would tell me that's where they would go. Why would you not notify someone that you're going to plan on not only digging in their yard, but you're not going to put it next to the existing utility boxes?
So there's a couple things, right? So one is we apply for permits, and the detail is in the permits. And we probably could have gone an extra step explaining where that didn't happen, where we weren't with the other utilities. It really boils down to two things. One is, do you have the right to be back there? And if we don't, then we have no other choice. And the other choice is on, and I think most of the folks talking today are on a different area. And the decision was made to build down the front, and that was so we could build one path instead of two paths. And the challenge we have is that there's an economic component to this. And so if we were to build down both sides and we would have proposed those costs, it probably wouldn't have met the business case. We probably wouldn't have been able to build that.
It's not our concern that you make money.
Well, exactly.
As a
I mean,
resident
it's been
of our
in
property.
the backyard for years. Why can't you run down the same lines?
But you're not gonna have anyone's business here.
I guess I understand that. I'm not on the sales side of it. I'm trying to manage the project.
The line runs down Taylor Street.
Let's let him address the board. And I mean, is it possible to either put flush pedestals in or put them in back?
So it's possible to put some flush pedestals. The issue is that if you put everything flush, they fill with water and they freeze, and you don't have access to the equipment that needs to go on there.
But you said it was high technology and that technology is fail-safe, correct?
Yes.
Okay, then what are we worried about going in and looking at it after the fact?
If somebody is going to serve a customer out of we just had one where it was completely full of water and frozen, not at an individual house level, but at a node level. And so it's operational, we just don't do that.
To make underground boxes
Yeah.
that electrical connections that are water.
Right, and like I said, we can do that for some. We can't do it for the actual unit that actually, where the fiber connects and feeds the houses. We can do it for pool pads. We just can't do it for every single
How
one.
can you tell the difference between, because I have noticed some of I have a node in my property.
Okay.
It's like twice the size of some of the other ones. And I know the one between these two properties is pretty big. Mine's probably smaller, 2.5 times that size. So I'm assuming I have nodes. So, okay, well, why couldn't the node go in back here, I guess? I mean, why are we kind of stuck with this? I have a hard time believing you guys have this, great high-speed technology, you can't keep the water out. I got a flashlight, it cost me $80. Could have gone 130 feet scuba diving, and guess what? It's still water.
Yeah, I don't understand why water is an issue.
Yeah,
Water's not an issue, it's an issue when it freezes.
Well, again, there's got to be waterproof boxes, like you said, with all high technology out there. Somebody should be able to.
Folks, excuse me, folks,
Can we just
we need to, we want everybody to get a chance to speak. So can you let him answer your questions and let Jack run the meeting? Because if you start yelling questions from the audience, if you ever go back and look at a videotape and try to get a sense of, who asked what, where, it's all mumbled up. So if you could just let him, he's heard what you've had to say, and let's see if he answers your questions, and then the board is also going to be asking questions. So the whole idea tonight is to get everybody a chance to speak.
And the other gentleman is getting everybody's addresses, so they'll be able to get in contact with you. So, any other comments on?
Well, so a couple of things. When we do a large project like this, and we've done a whole bunch of them, we meet with the city or the village or the state or the railroads, whomever we have to permit with. We go through what our plans are. You should have been notified. There should have been a door hanger on everybody's door. So obviously something broke down there. When it works well, we partner with the community. We partner with the public works folks. We get a permit. We communicate the schedules. We communicate when we're going to be in the neighborhoods. Folks are typically engaged in that area. And then we commence the construction. When the construction is complete, then there's we have a retainage on the damages, like on the yards, like someone had pictures here. So we hold a percentage of the contract, of every contract for retainage, and at the end of the project, the last thing we do is we meet with the city, we get a punch list items, and we go through all this. Been doing this for about 10 years. And they're always difficult projects, they're invasive, we have lots of people in lots of people's yards. They're always bumpy, we're about maybe 40% through the community, and we've been working since the fall, and, we have upheaval right now, but we didn't have a whole lot, through the fall, and we don't in the neighboring communities that we're working in, and it's ultimately the same folks working on the same project. So as far as cleanup and crooked pads, that's all cleaned up, that's all cared for at the end. We can't leave the community until we do that. So that should address that piece of it.
Okay.
The front easement versus the rear easement, we would prefer to be in the rear easement when we can capture, because the construction cost to access the houses, you only want that green box when you can spread it out across four houses. So back lots are ideal for us, right? So we try to get all those, but every community has situations where we can't do that, right? So it's either you don't have the easement, or in a couple of cases, there's situations where we would have to build on both sides of, both backyards, and then you would have double the pedestals and double the fiber footage. So we made the decision to go down the front easement. So if that's a problem, then I think what we have to do is we're going to have to look at the front easement areas and either, I don't want to say we'll take them out of the bid, but I don't know if it's worth it. We've already damaged our standing here, and so the goal isn't to aggravate people, the goal is to try to improve the community, and that's what we're trying to do here. So they're never perfect, there's always issues where people are upset. You can't do a project in front of thousands of people without offending or upsetting folks.
Well, I think the problem from the village standpoint, I'm probably speaking for most board members, is that expectations were not set here. The things you're telling us now was not what was in the presentation. So that's pretty frustrating.
What presentation are you referring to?
I think
Drew
with
Peterson.
With Drew
Oh,
Peterson,
okay.
yeah.
So it's hindsight, but maybe we would have done more notification, even though we don't do mailings. But
Right,
on
we should,
Facebook,
the
they're trying-
notification's on us. We should
Well,
have
just-
put the door hangers, we should have had a phone number.
Sir, if you want to talk, you're going to have to register.
I just wanted to ask.
Well, I'm just one more.
Let Matt finish first.
So, what's frustrating with that is, what's my train of thought?
The communication with the sales guy, what you were saying when he was coming in and explaining everything.
Yeah, well, okay, so we may have done some notification and work more with the community, but we were sold on this not being disruptive. It was gonna be in the backyard. We didn't hear these same issues that happened. They had just finished Sun Prairie, I believe.
In McFarland.
And, we knew there'd be some, minimal issues here or there, but we didn't think we'd have a whole neighborhood in here. And that's not what we were sold on. And that's why the board was pretty unified and, wow, this is fantastic for the community, let's move forward.
Sir, if you got something, make it quick, please.
Did you say you were 40% through our community?
Through the buried section, yes. So in the aerial sections, we're not.
I just don't want it to happen. I want.
Any other board members?
Right, I guess, that's just what we were saying, from this going on and stuff, everybody's not happy with having it in the front. So if they're gonna continue to put it in the front, you're still gonna get a lot
All
more.
right, it's our
complaints.
turn. It's the board's turn now.
The door hangers, unfortunately, don't work. So I don't know if it's another way you could do it, but they do blow off. And I know this because in my neighborhood, you're planning on coming soon. And I never got one, but I did notice 3 of them laying in somebody's yard, and it just happened to be blowing off. So there might be another way that you guys might want to approach that.
I guess I'd like to make a motion that with all this said tonight, we need a full stop. You guys got to fix this.
Yep.
We need better communication. Clearly, there's an issue with permits, with somebody seeing one way it's being done, and all of a sudden a week later it's being done in front yards. Something's not right there. Which means, I don't know if JJ got a different plan than what you guys are working off of. What's going on?
I'll second that, but I'd also like to have a conversation with
Yeah,
Mr.
I know, but I just
Peterson
want to get
myself.
that out there right now
Because I was party to those conversations, and there was none of this that discussed there.
So that's-
Sir, go quick, what?
I just want to remind you, before you cut me off in 3 minutes, you said you'd get back to me. I just want to remind you that I got something coming up.
Okay. All right.
So the motion is to direct staff, will full stop.
I have to tell you,
Right.
you're the first TDS person that I've seen since this project started, and we're already in March, okay? You're the first guy. We've dealt with Incon, and we've dealt with Mike, and those guys don't have
We have
any
a,
of the background.
okay, we've got a motion and a second right now that John just said we're gonna put things at a full stop.
Until
And-
these things are addressed.
Right, and I want to have a conversation with Mr. Peterson, who sold us this in the first place. So is there any other discussion on that? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There you go.
You know, one thing, last time I checked, TDS is a for-profit company, it's traded on the stock market. You're pushing customers away. Wouldn't you want to embrace what they want and give them that to make it the best for them and for you as an organization?
Are you asking that question?
No, I'm just commenting. It's, you know.
All right. Thank you for coming here tonight. I know that there's a lot of issues.
I'm sorry, if others have a question, they wanted to.
Any other board members have any questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to also say that I think a lot of this has to do over the last few weeks, where it's been cold and snowy and awful, and then to have that compounded with people digging in your front yard, not knowing what it's gonna look like in the spring. The subcontractors or whoever you hired to do the digging, they weren't the most congenial to deal with either. They blocked people's driveways. And so I don't know if it's the contractors or if they're TDS people or what, but.
I think that may be a part of it as a subcontractor, not so much yourselves, but I don't know who you use for a subcontractor, but I'd like to find out if I could.
Could I just, the devil's always in the detail, but can you make sure that you give to JJ who's going to contact him, and that your company will take responsibility to get to your subs and say, stop work because the permit is currently on hold, and then here's the plan going forward. So I think that's important. We don't want to wait for 2 weeks to do it, but we want to make sure that that contact is going to be made with the Public Works Director.
Can we do that?
Okay.
Thank you for coming, sir.
Just one
Scott?
question. Here, you made the comment, you said that you prefer to do the work in the backyards. Why didn't you contact the residents, if you didn't have the easement in the backyards, say we prefer to do it in the backyards, and ask the residents if we would give you an easement if you didn't have one, to do the work?
That's one of the questions we'll be asking. Thank you. All right, thank you, gentlemen, I appreciate it. Okay, so we're gonna get some answers for you. Things are stopped at this point, permit's been pulled, so. Thank you all for coming, stay warm. Let's take a 5-minute recess and let them get out to their cars, I think.
getting stuck in hands.
Next item, new business, discuss and consider new operators licenses for year July 2018 to June 2019. And I'll take a stab at these names here. Marcella Kushner, Christopher Hewitt, Jackie Ann Kretlich, Dylan Rogers, and Donald Lord. Chief, any problems with these individuals?
No.
Okay. Anybody want to?
I'll make a motion to approve the operator license for the 5 individuals.
Okay.
Second.
Motion and second to approve operators licenses for July 2018 to June 2019 for the 5 individuals. Any other discussion? If none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, motion passes. 9.1 Deer Grove EMS Commission. Troy?
We met Thursday the 21st. Calls were down for the month compared to last year, 72 versus 100. We have one new member. We applied for a Coverdale Stroke Program grant. There's some discussion in the employee handbook about a couple of slight changes in vacation time and sick time. Agreed on a contract with Airgas. It's going to save about 50%, cut the cost down 50% over the next 3 years.
That's just on the oxygen tanks you're talking about, right?
What was that?
On the oxygen tanks for the
Yeah, the
ambulance?
oxygen. Yep. We haven't been under a contract now, so we're paying a much higher rate than agreeing to a contract.
Okay.
And then looking at moving some credit card limits that some folks have. The advantage there is that we'll get 2% cash back by making more transactions on credit cards rather than paying by check. So that's then going to be done that way.
Okay.
Next meeting is on 3/21 in Cottage Grove.
All right, thank you. Joint Town of Cottage Grove Board of Supervisors and Village of Cottage Grove Board of Trustees. I think most of us were here. You'll see the attachments in your packet. One of the things that the town asked, we approved our version, our portion of the minutes ahead of the meeting with the town, and they were asking that we wait until we have the joint meeting to approve the minutes, I guess, versus in case they have something to add and change, but I'll let Lee.
I got quizzed by Lisa, and fortunately, I had already written a memo on this back in September. If you want to just pass it around. You essentially have 2 meetings going on concurrently.
Yeah.
So there's a town board meeting and there's a village board meeting, and the town should be taking their own minutes, and we should be taking our minutes.
Okay.
And I know that it seems counterintuitive in a way, and it's like, well, why can't we both do it? But you really do have 2 separate meetings going on because you don't have a joint town-village entity.
Right.
And so, just for simplicity's sake, I would just say, if you don't want to take minutes, town, that's fine. If we want to take minutes, I know Lisa goes back and reviews the
Right.
video. But that's how you should do it when you have a joint situation like that.
So what we kind of determined in that meeting is that wherever the meeting was held, that jurisdiction would do the minutes, and we could use those same minutes as both meetings then, correct? We could call them our minutes, they could call them their minutes? Because the way the meeting minutes were the last time, it's almost like 2 different meetings happening.
They are. And
I mean, truly, you
but
read
there are
through it,
2 separate
it's like
meetings
they're on
happening.
the same day.
But there are 2 separate meetings happening. Because you have a town board meeting and you have a village board meeting. Because when you don't do that, then there would have to be an entity known as the village town entity, and there isn't one. So that's why both sides have to.
Shouldn't the meeting minutes coincide with each other, though? That it looks like everybody's at the
Oh,
same
it's
meeting?
the meeting minutes for the town, the meeting minutes for the village. I mean, I'm just telling you that you need to do it this way if you want to be consistent with the open meeting law. I mean, this is not a new question.
If the township had something that they took exception with, could they request us to change it in the minutes?
Yeah, I mean, well.
They can change it in their minutes.
Yeah, our minutes are our minutes, their minutes are their minutes, and it's really more of a way of protecting yourself so that if somebody from the town, let's say the town just says, well, we're gonna use the village minutes, and then somebody from the town says, hey, where are your minutes from that meeting? And we say, well, we use the village minutes. And I go, well, Why didn't you take your own?
Why can't they take the same header and put Village of Cottage Grove meeting minutes, and then their header would say Town of Cottage Grove billing, meeting minutes?
that's what they wanna
So
do.
they'd be exactly the same. It looks unified that way.
Their minutes were different than ours were from the last meeting, so if Kim wanted to take our minutes and do that, she could have. But she didn't, so we had two separate meeting minutes, which means, like, they might focus on something different than what our minutes focus on.
Again, this has come up before, and my strong suggestion from a legal point of view is that both the town and the village take their own minutes. And whenever you have a joint meeting like that, that's what should be happening.
Okay.
So.
Makes sense to me.
Do we
Seems like
need to wait till the next joint meeting?
No,
then?
you can
Okay.
approve our minutes now, and I know it seems like,
He's such restraint, yeah.
blame me. I'm happy to take the
No,
blame.
It's two municipalities coming
Yeah.
together
Right.
to talk about things.
For
You
such
should-
a little
you should
small
definitely
thing,
do it.
why,
Yeah.
why take the risk?
Yeah.
Right.
It's not worth it.
Yeah,
Let's just have
And
them-
Troy, the reason I'm saying this is because this actually happened years
No, no,
ago where
I-
someone
I-
said,
I-
well, you guys didn't even take minutes. Well, you didn't really have a full meeting.
It's just duplication of the same thing.
Yeah.
Waste of government money.
Okay. All right, we did have Dan Olson, school superintendent here. He did a presentation, answered a few questions. Any other village trustees want to expound on anything?
Could I just ask,
Yeah.
can you run through the agenda, just, what happened, like with Flynn Hall and?
They're going to come back to us with options for Flynn Hall.
Okay.
Yep.
And I think what the village board discussed is possibly, there's two resident members. They really don't report back to the board. We don't
Right.
provide them direction. So possibly getting a trustee or two as part of the Flynn Hall committee.
Right. That way we just have more continuity with what goes on there, instead of trying to get old residents.
What was the other?
I think it was,
I went back and watched it. There was something about not having a proper emergency plan.
yes, there was a lot of discussion, and a couple of the town people got sort of way off track. But anyway, there was talking about the ordinance for the emergency government versus the plan,
Yep.
the emergency plan. The ordinance, what I understand is the ordinance can incorporate the plan, but there's still two separate things. Is that
Yep.
The ordinance is not a plan.
right? It can cite the plan, but, yeah.
Great.
Okay. They asked about the Whiten development, and we told them that we've heard basically nothing from them at this point.
We're not expecting to hear anything.
Yeah.
They just, they weren't able to make it work economically, and they were gonna, see what they could do. Maybe talk to some other engineers or see how they can reconfigure things, and we don't know if we'll see anything or not, but.
Okay. And
Wyden is across from Bakken. Farm.
down on, yeah. And then I think we talked a little bit, we kind of just gave an update on the public information meeting for Shady Grove, but there was no action items. We discussed what happened there, and I don't remember if we had anything else.
Bike path,
Bike
I think.
path.
Oh, the bike
an update
path.
On the bike path.
Yeah, we talked about the progress on the bike path, which is down the road a couple of years for us. Anybody have anything else that they had from that? Okay. And did they want to set a new meeting date? I think they were holding off till after the election in a couple months.
But we did set a date.
Yes.
In June, yeah.
Oh, yeah, fourth Thursday or something in June.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
But we can approve the
Like
minutes
the
at the next village board.
24th, is that right?
Yeah.
June
Yeah.
24th.
June, yeah, the fourth Thursday, yeah. Yep, that's the date they wanted to give everybody on board, whoever's on the board, a chance to get their feet wet or so.
So we're tabling the approval of the minutes then.
They're not
That's-
on.
No, yeah, we'd already approved our minutes at a previous meeting, so that's why we didn't really have to approve ours at the joint meeting.
Great.
Okay. Anything else on the joint meeting? I guess next time it'll be at the town hall.
Oh, and Lee, there was no discussion about the director in the emergency ordinance, so
Right.
you'll have to keep at that.
Okay. All right. Okay, moving down, law enforcement committee, or, I was not able to make it.
Can you explain why we need to do that ordinance for sexting?
Right, I proposed two ordinances that we currently don't have. One is for sexting, and we have state law right now, but we don't have a village ordinance where we could cite a juvenile for sending a picture or receiving one or showing a picture of a sexual nature of a minor to others. So we're looking for an ordinance that we have mainly for our school resource officer to cite kids, get them into our juvenile court if appropriate, get their parents involved because they have to be involved, and we can have an option to state statutes which really don't apply for minors in these situations. So that's what we're looking for, is a village ordinance addressing sexting, and I had one from, I believe it was Stevens Point, that was pretty good and showed it to the committee, and they...
Okay. My only question would be, does that then address any form of social media other than simply texting on the phone, FaceTime, God knows what they would do, you know what I mean?
It would be any computer device, obviously, so if a picture can be sent via any device and seen or received and then shown to others, whatever.
So any form, okay.
Yeah, it could be anything.
Yeah. Okay.
But we don't have any of that option right now, and most communities in the state do.
All right.
And then the other one was those portable storage containers you see around, those big white things.
Oh, the pods?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I noticed we did not have an ordinance on that I could find, and I've had several residents come up to me and ask us why we don't have any control over those, and stories about them sitting in people's driveways or side yards for 6 months at a time and nothing being done about them.
Right.
So that's why I proposed that to the law enforcement committee also, and I used an ordinance that's already in place in a different community, and they basically say that you're supposed to come to the village and get a permit for it.
Okay, so it's like a temporary outbuilding almost.
Yeah, sort of, yeah. And then it can be there for 30 days, and if there's a hardship, they can get extensions.
And absolutely never on the street, right?
Right,
Okay.
Yeah, and we're not literally expecting every resident that gets a storage unit for a week or something to come and get a permit. It just is not realistic to expect, but it's when people abuse it that we'll be able to enforce that ordinance by saying, you need a permit and you have 30 days. So
it sits in the driveway for 6 months.
That's just not acceptable.
It's just kind of an eyesore.
So that's what we're trying to avoid. We're not trying to penalize people from getting these in their driveway for a move period of a few days.
Yeah, and in addition to that, it helps them if we get a call.
Yeah.
We can assure somebody. Sometimes also wants to know is, do you know how long it's going to be there?
Yeah.
If you know that, hey, this thing's going to be gone in a week, I can live with it. But if it's just going to sit there forever, that's unacceptable.
What is, Chief, what did the one that you found state?
Requires
as far as permit, does it require a fee, does it require just?
No, it just said a permit, so if a fee was charged, I guess that's up to the village if they want to set a fee.
Right, I'm just saying the one you found is where I'm getting at.
It didn't even mention the fee.
I mean, I wouldn't think you'd need a fee, that just
so you have a record.
Or a fee or a penalty, one of the two. I mean, you've got to have but a penalty if they don't do it. If they don't get it out within 30 days. That's, I think, where we need to.
I mean, you could charge them a fee.
It has to
and
have
then
teeth,
give them it back if they return it, to get it out of there within, or if it's over 30 days, here's your ticket. And after 30 days, here's your ticket. You should grab someone's attention.
Well, actually, the way it reads, I think that sometimes you can say that it's a violation for every day, but rarely does that get enforced. But speaking of enforcement, Dan has gotten at least gotten examples. Is the board okay with he and I working together to bring something to the board on sexting? I guess that's what I thought you were sending me the other day, Dan.
I think that makes the most amount of sense.
Pods.
letting me and Dan communicate and
Yep.
report back to us.
Yeah, that's the directive that we really gave.
Okay.
And just as a reminder, when we talked about not having an ordinance review committee, I think in our budget, we have up to 3 or 4 maybe ordinance updates per year. And between planning commission looking at the protest petition, I think CDA is looking at hotel taxes.
Yep.
We had an individual that's concerned about dog licensing. These 2 ordinances, they just keep building up, so.
Right, so
We're gonna get through that
That's
fast.
a big idea.
Well, the hotel tax, we're not changing, right? We're not doing
Yeah, we have to change that in order to be consistent with state statute. It's
Right.
not the tax, it's the.
So I think to your point, we need to budget
I get it.
enough money to at least get that done.
Well, either that or, reinstitute the ordinance review committee, which I think a month ago we decided not to do, but we appointed people to that. Our
Right.
website has people listed, and I don't know if other people are getting emails, but I'm getting emails from people that are asking me to look into things, which I can certainly bring to the board, but.
Sure.
I think a lot of that cost though is the getting it into
The filing.
the system,
Yep.
so
Yep.
I don't know if that would, I mean, they could have those work through sitting there for when there is money available.
Dan, could you just send those to me, then I will.
Okay. All right, anything else on LEC? Okay. All right. Parks, Rec, and Forestry Committee discuss and consider suspending ordinance number 230-3 for Fireman's Park on April 12th, 2019.
Yeah, and this is hometown talent tournament, just to keep the park open until midnight. Sean, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, also, weather permitting, it's gonna be a busy night for baseball, if we actually don't have any snow then. Monona Grove Baseball also has a game scheduled that night, so hometown's gonna push back their fundraising tournament to start a little bit later, so they may go a little bit past 10 o'clock, so I'm just asking if it's okay if we allow them to inhabit the park and possibly have the lights on until as late as midnight. And I will, if it's okay with you folks, I will notice all of the neighbors and just let them know that this will be happening.
On Reynolds Street. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Cool.
Is there a motion to approve that?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll
Okay.
second.
We have a motion and second then to approve suspending ordinance 230-3 for Fireman's Park on April 12th. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Thanks, John.
Did you want to talk about the stewardship grant on Buckham?
No, we're not ready for that yet.
Okay, sorry, that was something we, never mind.
Yeah,
That's a preview,
Sorry about
that's a
that.
tantalizer for us.
Yeah,
Thanks.
We didn't hear that.
Okay.
All right.
Sorry.
Reports from village officers, Troy?
Give me that 5 and 6.
One note, under upcoming meetings, it has emergency government under March 6th, which is Wednesday. It's actually been moved permanently to Thursday, so it's the 7th.
Thursday the 7th?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's first Thursday of every month then?
First Thursday of every month.
Okay.
Yep.
Because I know we don't keep our calendars normally. It's that, second,
Yeah.
okay. All right, James Elmore.
No report.
Okay, Jeff.
No report tonight.
All right, Melissa, you have discussed recording meetings with presentations.
Yeah, so at CDA, they had a presentation by Nicole Solheim with Gorman Properties. And it was too late to get it recorded at that point. But I was hoping that the board could maybe agree that in the future, if there's presentations at committee meetings, if possible, to have staff record it then so it's available to other board members and the public.
Do we have a way for staff to run the cameras or?
So this came up because right now we record board meetings, plan commission, and then kind of a special event.
EMS.
Yeah.
You do EMS also.
EMS, yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes there might be a community event that we'll send them to, or there's maybe a special neighborhood meeting or something like that. Aside from that, we don't record. So from my standpoint, when Melissa brought this to my attention, she was asking if we could record it, and I'm like, theoretically, yes, but I can't take a directive from one board member because that's not, how we currently do things. So I just suggested her to bring it up to the board. And
I don't have a problem doing it, just do we have to get the folks then from Monona Grove back over here to do that?
Yeah.
I mean, we need someone to.
Like CDA is like in the morning, right?
No, it's
No,
Monday
it's at
nights.
5.
Oh, okay. That's architectural review that's in the morning, okay.
So,
I mean, it's just a question of getting somebody to run the cameras, right?
Right.
I don't know.
Can we put the presentation maybe in the agenda as part of, like CDA, here's the agenda and here's the presentation that was presented, so whenever, like, I think John presents for CDA,
Yeah.
and that way it's, rather than call them in just for a presentation, you put the presentation as a hyperlink agenda. Is that an option?
You mean their PowerPoint?
Yeah.
Rather than when they're talking to us? I mean, yeah, in addition, but, I mean, it's rare that you actually have a presentation at different committees. So that's why, like, that was just one time that happened at the CDA, so I'm not expecting it to happen more often. It's just a matter of, in special instances like that, that would be okay with the board.
I don't have a problem with it, it's just a question of getting the people to run the cameras,
Right.
if they can come.
And that's
I mean,
why I indicated if possible for
Yeah.
staff to do that if they're available at that time.
If we can, I guess that's fine.
Do we have the ability to track how many people are actually looking at the?
Yep, not many. Generally anywhere from 2 to 20-ish.
Yeah.
And usually one of those are me and one's Lisa.
So we're favorites,
Yeah,
right?
you got a couple in here.
But it depends. There's sometimes you'll get more, but on average it's less than 20.
Right. And it's always a YouTube link, right? Is that?
Yeah, I have no idea on
Yeah,
cable viewership.
So you
but-
don't know?
Yeah, I just, I'm trying to figure out wrap my head around, okay, we have this video recording, but if nobody's watching it, why are we recording it?
Yeah, it's kind of a chicken or the egg thing. It's hard.
No, it's more the tree falling.
You want to do it long and.
Really, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying it's hard to establish a base of viewers. We're running in this, the same thing with poll questions, trying to, how long do you do something before you decide not to do it anymore if people aren't. But the cable cost isn't a huge cost, and I know staff does utilize it to go back and look at things, and hopefully more people, we can try to send out information on Facebook to let people, remind people that it's out there. Because I think the YouTube, especially since you can go and watch any meeting, I think that's a pretty useful thing to have.
Right.
Just from a,
Watch the May meeting.
the transparency point of view, it's so much nicer to be able to go to the YouTube channel, because before you used to have a tape recorder and then you'd be in the middle of some passionate discussion and it would be like, stop, and then you have to change the tape and then there'd be a break, or the tape would break, and so I've had to listen to those both ways.
Okay, fair enough. So I'm fine with doing it if we can get it.
Yeah.
That's fine. All right, John Russell.
Does somebody want to make a motion
Oh,
to that?
is that, yeah.
That's to
Just to discuss?
discuss.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that's the understanding from everybody.
Right, I mean, is there not gonna be extra cost incurred that's significant and?
Not significant.
Okay. All right. John Russell.
Yeah, I apologize for not submitting it, but I wanted to thank the Chamber of Commerce for the candidate forum last week. I was notified on Friday by about 4 or 5 people that tried watching it on the cable channel. There was no sound. So if you do have the cable channel, I don't know if the AV techs were looking into it, and I think Matt was involved because I made him aware. So it's between Charter, our AV equipment, but if we have the local cable network, I don't know what else is televised, but let's try to get that fixed and maybe televise these meetings in addition to YouTube. And it was also brought to my attention that night that you'll see the AV techs that come out. Some of these microphones are probably in need of repair, so maybe come budget time in the fall, we might want to take a look at replacing some of the microphones.
Okay.
I'll actually be meeting with MG students sometime in the near future they have some ideas on how to maybe improve some things.
Sure.
We've noticed that it's taken a while sometimes to upload the meeting, so that's likely our equipment. So I think that could help the YouTube viewership too, if the night of or the next day it's up there. Sometimes that's happened, sometimes it can take a week, so we need to look into that. But yeah, hopefully we have some answers in the near future.
Okay. All right, John Williams.
No report.
Okay. I have no report. Lee?
No report except to say that it was wonderful to see the results of the board and the village's efforts to get Summit to build their building. It's a magnificent structure. And I'm sure the people at my firm will be wanting to know when they get a relaxation and inspiration. But it won't be soon. But it's just fabulous. It really is.
All right, Matt, you got a topic there?
Yeah, first I have a few other things, 2 positives and a negative, so I'll put the negative right in the middle of the 2 positives. I was at a state city administrator conference last week for a couple days, and the Summit news is definitely statewide. I was like a local celebrity with people congratulating Cottage Grove on that, so both fellow administrators and consultants and vendors and people like that. So it's definitely statewide news. The negative, we received it's just one complaint, but we may be getting more. And this is something that unfortunately comes up annually that you guys you probably just experience on your own. You probably have your own complaint, and that would be the owner at Marketplace, the Marketplace Plaza with Piggly Wiggly, just all the potholes and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
That come up. I know, hit them from time to time and dodging them all the time. Unfortunately, this has come up in previous years, so we've looked into it, and there isn't a ordinance in place that we can force them to repair those. Generally, it ends up getting repaired usually in the spring. Once weather permits, they get out there and take care of it. The only portion of our code where we could look into would be a nuisance, and even that doesn't really, if you go through that part of the code, we'd really be sticking our necks out if we tried to enforce that for this. So just so you guys are aware, I mean, I think we'll reach out to the owner as we usually do, and he's usually eventually responsive. But the tenants usually put pressure on him, so that's usually how it gets done. But
That's the best option, is complain to the tenants, I think.
yeah, well, they usually get pretty vocal. So anyway, there's that, and then another positive, just wanted to recognize Lisa Claudia and Deb Winter for their, the actual work that they've put in and still put in the transition from Cynthia's retirement till now, picking up this slack of, a full-time position. It's a lot of work, and they put in a lot of extra hours.
Thanks,
Good
that's
And then the item on here is a report following up on the requests that I provide, breakdowns of comparable Dane County municipalities for, as far as property value breakdowns between residential value and commercial value.
That was the email that you put up.
It's in the package as well. There's, I collected data from over 4 years from 10 different communities. The median population is about 9,000 from those communities, and the high end of residential, the highest percentage of tax base being residential was Wanakee at about 86%. The lowest is Verona, which is a bit of an outlier at 43, not a bit, a huge outlier at 43%. To put that in perspective, Epic Systems is worth, the property value is $850 million.
Could we get them to move
That's more
to
than
us?
that's more than the entire village of Cottage Grove. The village is currently at 81%, and looking at once Summit's added in there. So in 2020, when we see that, we should be towards the median, and the median's about 79%, 78.5%.
That's the first year when Summit is out of the TIF? Is that?
No, so this includes all property in the village.
Okay.
So including all TIDs.
Okay.
And equalized value was used so we could, because some communities are less and some are more
Yeah.
than given the assessed value ratios. And then just another interesting portion when looking at these communities, like was taking a look at the largest decade of population growth. A city like Monona, which was the I believe had the second best ratio. They had their largest boom from 1950 to 1960, so they've been established a little bit.
Right.
They've had about 60 years to expand on their commercial base. And then when you look at what the village's plans are north of the interstate, the conservative estimates have been 200 to 300 million out there that we should do, and that would be exclusively, that would fall in the commercial category, and that would definitely put us in the Monona category and arguably even better than that. So anyway, those were the general takeaways. Any questions?
Great information, thank you.
Yeah, good work. All right. Aaron?
Nothing now, I'll ask for a couple minutes in the closed session. That's it.
Okay. Chief Labor, anything?
No, just I contacted that owner over at the Piggly Wiggly also about the parking lot between Glenwood Senior Living and Piggly Wiggly, because the older residents contacted me about it, and he went out there and patched a few potholes, but that parking lot needs a major.
Yeah, they got patches on top of patches.
Yes.
Yeah,
It
yeah, it's
really
just
doesn't
every
do
year,
good.
yeah.
Not to kick a dead cat, but there's, I mean, when I've been out, collecting signatures and talking to residents, there's people actually that think that the village owns that road.
That's the problem,
And I try to
yeah.
educate them, so, I mean, it's bad for the tenants, it's bad for the neighbors, it's kind of what's bad on the village as well, so.
It does, yeah.
If there's anything we could do, I appreciate you looking into it, Matt. It doesn't sound like we gotta just probably have to put the tenants.
Who's the owner?
Tenants unaware.
It's not the owner.
What's that?
T-squared properties, yeah.
Right.
I think I don't even know where they're out of.
I don't think that was built for trucks or something, because it just keeps breaking down, yeah.
Right. Okay.
The trucks go over.
JJ, anything?
That side.
John?
This past weekend, we hosted a sixth grade basketball tournament that Culver's sponsored, so they gave us $500 to cover our referee costs and also gave the first place teams a free kids meal. So thank you to Culver's for that.
Okay. Lisa?
Just wanted to let the board know that we have received our Badger books, which are e-pull books, and it will be going into the city tomorrow for training with the WEC on how to set up the poll books and to implement them. And I will be then scheduling training with our poll workers in the near future to have them up and running for the April election.
Nice.
So when you say Badger books, because I jotted it down and
I was
think,
thinking
what is
Bucky
that?
book or something.
Bucky book is what I thought. And I'm like, it can't be a Bucky book. And if it is, it's a really expensive one.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thanks. Deb, anything?
Communication devices.
Okay. All right. Communications and miscellaneous business, consider approval of vouchers. Any questions or comments? Okay.
Second.
Motion and second to approve vouchers as presented. Any other discussion?
I have one question. So there's a TIF or TID payment here to Cottage Grove Development. Which TID is that for?
They're both TID 5.
Okay, that's, I was thinking that, but it wasn't listed. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, motion passes. Correspondence, I have nothing. Anything? Lisa?
Nothing.
Okay. Upcoming community events. Anybody?
Cottage Grove Volunteer Fire Department's having their St. Patty's Day corned beef luncheon, March 16th from 11 to 3.
Okay.
March 9th, Euchre Tournament by the Optimist, BFW, Cottage Grove Road, 6:30, $20.
Anybody else? All right. Future agenda items. I guess follow up with PDS. See what comes of that. Anything else?
I would recommend it, it's probably a couple meetings out, but probably after the election, maybe April 15th, if the board wants to consider reviewing, take a review of the committees. It was made aware over the weekend that we have a public relations committee, and had Matt do a little bit of homework, and I think the board was copied on the results of when we're required to have a public hearing And TDS might be a prime example. We're not required to, but we might want to have a neighborhood meeting. And, you know, the Public Relations Committee, probably not a monthly, in my opinion, type of organization or committee that meets, but we have a Public Relations Committee. It's kind of a challenge to get communication out and about in the village. And then I'll just throw out there again, ordinance review as those keep piling up. And, you know, after the election, maybe have a full review of who's assigned to the committees, what committees are meeting, and maybe we need some new committees, because I was just made aware today that DeForest actually has a housing authority, and I know that's near to a couple trustees' platforms, and I agree, but DeForest actually just named an executive director to their housing authority, so a little bit bigger size in the village, but we take the town and the village together and probably include DeForest.
Okay. Anything else future agenda wise?
Just want, I need to research this a little bit more, but I just want to put this out there. I believe the CDA, when we created that, has the authority to be a housing authority, has the ability to be one. So that's something that could be looked into.
Okay. Yeah, I think they chose not to be one.
Which, the benefit to that would be is it's hard to find enough people in the village that have that type of knowledge, and I think we found that with a lot of the CDA members, so I think they'd probably be good candidates for that.
And as we get a hotel, we would need a tourism, you know, committee or bureau. And
Yeah, that's something we're looking at.
Yep.
No.
Yep.
Right, Aaron?
Okay. Anything else? All right. At this time, I'll make the motion, the Village of Cottage Grove Village Board will enter into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 1985, Parent 1, Parent E, deliberating or negotiating the purchase of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. This closed session is to discuss boundary agreements. Is there a second?
A second.
Okay, a motion and a second. We'll need a roll call vote.
Allen.
Aye.
Elmore.
Aye.
Henrik.
Aye.
Lindberg.
Aye.
Ratcliffe. Russell.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Okay, we're in closed session.